All right, I'd like to call to order the July 15th Forest Lake Parks Commission meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Searing, Commissioner Eckert,
Here.
Commissioner Moorhead,
Here.
Commissioner Tyson.
Here. All right, if you're able, please join us stand and for the Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is approve the agenda, and I am recommending a revision to move item 8, the CD3 request, up after number 6, and then also move the Forest Lake Master Plan up right after that so that our guests can be here first.
It's just the CD3 and Lakeside Park dock.
Lakeside Park? Okay. So items 8 and 9, and then 12 up. I guess it'd be 11 and 12 also, so both our guests are. So Birchwood Estates would follow those items, maybe keep it simpler. So if Karen moves,
Second.
Nikki seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Minutes of our June 17th meeting, any revisions?
I didn't see any.
I wasn't in attendance, so I don't know.
Karen wasn't here, so Karen moves.
Yep.
Nikki will second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. So Kyle, CD3 system request.
So we have the Forest Lake Association that has brought the system up to staff as just something to explore. They're here tonight, so they will be a part of the discussion. Certainly, Ken, if you want to come up and introduce yourself, you can start that. And can you confirm, was this brought up in the past with the city, or just discussion within the Lake Association?
This is a new request to the Park and Rec Commission.
Just grab that, yep.
Yes, this is a new request to the Park and Rec Commission.
So certainly, we can just let Ken do a discussion on it, and he has a presentation to kind of go over as well with the commissioners, and we will be available for any questions throughout.
Welcome, Ken.
Thank you. Thank you, Don. And good evening to Park and Rec Commissioners and to staff as well. As Kyle said, I'm Kenneth Wood. I'm the president of the Forest Lake Association. I started back in roughly about October of last year, so enjoying this position and getting to work with you and the other city members. Jerry Grutner is also here with me this evening, another board member from FLLA and former president of our association. Okay, so the slides are up there. And I'm going to, at risk of screwing it, I'm going to try to put it in presentation mode just to see if it'll work here. Nope, we'll just leave it as is. Okay. All right. So there's two topics we're going to cover. The first one will be about the CD3 system, looking at asking for, it's a request to consider siting one at Lakeside Park. And the second is about an expansion of the dock, the public dock at Lakeside Park. So just as a reminder, so Forest Lake Association, our mission is three things primarily. It's protect, preserve, and also improve Forest Lake. And it's for our members, but also for the benefit of our neighbors who are not paid members of this. So it's for everybody that's on the lake. And so what we'll do is we'll talk about the first item comes from the first two categories of what we do, and that's preserve and protect. And the next one on the docket section, that's really an improvement for the lake. So what's a CD3 system? It's clean, drain, dry, and dispose system that is made to be installed at a boat launch. It's to help when there's no boat inspectors there. So, or it can also help to clean boats when the inspectors are there as an extra tool. So just so you have an idea, this is the scale of what it looks like. There's a human next to that. And I'll go through some more details on how this thing works. So what we're requesting is that for the Parks and Rec Commission to move forward with us on a site planning activity and an evaluation of these CD3 systems. The system would be provide to boaters these self-service tools along with educational resources to support Minnesota's clean drain, dry dispose requirements and help prevent the introduction and spread of invasive species. So it covers both that idea, introduction and spread from our place. The system would complement the current watercraft inspection program that is managed by Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District, in which the city and FLA, we all participate in under the tri-party agreement that it was signed between us. The system will help by providing AIS prevention resources during periods when the inspectors are not present and by supporting inspectors when they're on duty. So our thought is, the city is already investing in AIS prevention through inspections and management. The CD3 system, it's the next logical enhancement to this program, and it deserves consideration as a shared investment among the city, watershed, and the Lakes Association. So as I said, the first line of defense is inspectors. We've got inspectors now this year. We've got people out there 3 days a week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There was actually a gap in the schedule. We talked to the watershed district, said, you have money enough to cover all 3 days? They said, we're short. So we, the Lake Association, put in $4,700 to fill that void. And so now we've got full inspections for those 3 days on Forest Lake. Well, that leaves 4 days a week that there's no inspectors on the site, and that's the idea of the CD3 system. So how are these folks doing? They've been in business for about 10 years. Actually, they came and talked to to us at Lake Association about 10 years ago when they first started and thought about piloting here. Didn't work out, but they've been busy. They've got systems all over the state. They have systems outside of the state. And this was one that I just thought I'd highlight so you get an idea of what sort of traction do they have. Hennepin County, they did a pilot on this system, put in 3 systems in 2017. They liked the results they saw there, so they expanded. They put 7 to 8 more stations in 2019. And then in 2021, they put in 18 systems, 18 additional systems. So they've got about 30 systems out there, got a good track record. They've seen that it's effective. There's tools on these systems that the boaters use. There's actually data collection for when those tools are used, and it's tracked. And what they saw is that about the stations recorded 100,000 public tool uses. So the tools are being used. And they also found a 70% reduction in aquatic invasive species violations. So that's a combination of inspectors are looking and they're seeing that people are taking care of their boats. So what does it look like? How is it being used? These are typically, they're used at the exit point of the lake. So as the boats are coming out of the lake, and that's where I'll show in a chart coming up where we'd like to position it. But this is some pictures of examples of people using the systems and cleaning their boats. So what's on the system? As I said, there's some tethered hand tools. There's a brush. There's a plug removal tool for draining your boat in case you don't have the wrench with you. There's some tongs so that you can get under the boat and pull the weeds off the boat. And they're all on tethered things. So when they're done, they just zip back and they go next to the system. There's an air blow gun so you can blow out water and weeds in tight spots. And then there's also a wet dry vac so you can actually suck water out and it goes into a bin on it. These are solar powered if you don't have power at the site, that's what we're thinking. You don't have to, this is cost savings. You don't have to drop the power drop at the installation. It's just have solar power. It's got lights on it. It's got also internet connected, so it does data collection and things that we can monitor. Also has educational kiosk and decals on, of how to use the system. Like anything else, it has some maintenance, so it's not, totally self-contained. There's some things we'll have to do on an annual basis, and that would be, we would leave that up to the city, that would be a responsibility of the city to do the maintenance on this. There's some tool replacement if there's broken tools, or sometimes, God forbid, there's some vandalism, but we hear from them that's it's infrequent. You have to clean the debris from around the systems, but that's typically what you have to do already at the boat launch, so I don't think that's a new burden. Vacuum plugs, you have to actually vacuum out the container that's got the stuff that's been vacuumed up for the boats, pump it out, and then a winter cover on it at the end of the season. It's also, I would just say it's portable, that what we're picturing is that this will be installed on a concrete pad, fairly inexpensive, there's no electrical power again, but if, the park board decides we're gonna move or change Lakeside Park, we're gonna change the boat launch, and we need to move this someplace else, it is easy to lift, shift, and put it at a new installation. This is a shot of the type of metrics that we'll all be able to see on this, so you can see the daily tool use on weekends, tool use at night. You can track it on an annual basis, weekly basis. So it would be real-time feedback and data that we can look at that is the tool being effective. So what our feedback from Hennepin County is that for the first few years, they used this data to see how it was being used. And because there's some fees associated with having to monitor this, that would be another fee that the city would have to pay for on an ongoing basis. But maybe in the future you say, well, yeah, people are using it. I don't need the details on what they're doing with it because it's effective. What does these things cost? So this is a price tag on these is in the $45,000 to $50,000. What we're proposing is that one would be sited at Lakeside Park. We know there's two other launches, one for the DNR, one that's kind of just right after Pizza Pub, on Third Lake, and then the far one on Third Lake. They're a little more challenging to work with. Trying to get the DNR to put these in is going to be tougher. We think the space also at the first smaller boat launch, there's not much solar exposure there. It's very tight. I think that's going to be really hard to put in. And honestly, I'm not sure if there's much solar gain that we'll be able to get at the far Third Lake site either. So those would need power drops, I would guess. But we want to start here because it's our primary boat launch is First Lake, and see if get some results. So what's the value to the city? It's going to enhance our existing AIS prevention programs. It extends protection beyond the inspector hours. It also protects the public investment in the lake. It demonstrates environmental leadership by the city, supports recreational use of Forest Lake. It provides a permanent educational asset, and it creates a foundation for future AIS prevention efforts. And finally, as I mentioned, it's movable if we need to reconfigure Lakeside Park. And so what we're thinking is that what we would like to your feedback on is this shows where we would site the system. And here's, it says in this little blue box here, CD3, that's the bump out. As you come out of the boat ramp, there's kind of a pull out on the left-hand side. That's got some clear exposure for solar to the south. And then that can be used for both boats coming in and boats coming out. So if a boat comes in and the inspectors say, yay, you got too much stuff on your boat, you need to pull over here, go to the station, clean off, and then come back around and launch again. So that's one way it could be used. And then the other is that as the boats are coming out, they can just pull up there like they normally do as they're exiting and pull over and clean the boats. All right. And so what we're asking is that we'd like you to approve the concept of locating a CD3 system at Lakeside Park. Approve the continued evaluation and planning of the proposed site and location, and then allow us to come back with a future to the commission here with more details about the system and also some ideas on the funding for that system. And that's it. We appreciate the partnership with the city, And like your feedback, if you have any questions on this one.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Yeah, you're welcome, Don. Thank you.
Kyle, do you have anything you need to add?
Nothing specific here, I mean, other than some staff feedback of the site plan and all that, but certainly open up for your guys' discussion first.
Okay. Questions?
He answered my question, I think, as I had one down as far as, are you aware that the city's in the process of moving the boat launch? But you said this thing is easily moved?
Yes, we're definitely, we're aware of it, and we're wanting to make sure that we address that. I talked to the vendor about it and told him that this may move, and he said it's actually quite simple. This is, all you'll have is a concrete pad. You'll have to pour a new concrete pad, but that's about it. It's a forklift, pick up, move over to the new site, and set back down, bolted in place.
And just to clarify, that there's just, it's not necessarily ongoing that it's being moved, it's just there's some discussions around possibilities of that moving, right? So it's not necessarily saying that the boat launch is going to move, but certainly something that's been discussing of, planning.
So the,
Go ahead.
so it does, I'm just looking through it, so there is a cost to that software, so $1,300 a year.
Yes. That's, there's definitely a cost for maintenance, and there's a cost for the software.
On
And
the
that's,
back,
it is optional, but I just say that we'll all benefit if we make this investment, then we would like the data that comes off it, and I think you all will want the data as well, just so at least for the first few years, so we can see, okay, is this effective, are people using it, and we get where we're hoping.
and what
Ken,
kind of-
go ahead, Aaron.
What kind of, I guess that would come, so this is more of, you're wanting a recommendation to go down the road of exploring the options and what costs are and how we get the money. So what are we wanting with this?
It was, what I was
Tonight.
asking was just, are you okay if we cite this at the boat launch? The spot we've picked, and if you said, we don't want anything in the park, then that's, okay, we'll do, then we're done. But if you
Okay.
said, that spot looks okay, or, maybe if we have to move it a little bit, but that you're okay citing something at Lakeside Park, then we would do some more work. We're looking at funding part of this ourselves.
Okay.
So just so you have an idea from a funding perspective.
One question is, you say it's Lakeside Park. The other two spots are actually boat landings.
Okay.
I don't know if you know, if Hennepin County, how many of these are sited actually adjacent to an active park?
I have no
Okay.
idea. I do not
All
know.
right.
Yeah.
That's one issue is, we bring up vandalism and there's a lot of activity there, as we all know, in that parking lot and the park there. It's not just a boat landing, right?
Yes.
And and then if the city's gonna be on the hook for vandalism and things, that'd be one concern. Your question about citing, well, your third bullet, allow you to return. Well, first of all, you can return anytime. You don't need to be allowed to return to come here. I think it'd be an easier discussion if we had the whole picture of what's the cost sharing gonna be, what's the maintenance gonna be, and it'd be able to have a comprehensive discussion, especially if we don't decide anything, we just make recommendations to the council.
Right.
And I think it'd be easier for us to make a recommendation to the council if we understood everything that's involved with this. So I personally am not saying no, but I'm saying at this time, it seems a little premature until we have the full picture of what the association is proposing. It certainly looks like a wonderful tool, but I think it behooves us to have a full understanding of maintenance, cost share, operations, public works needs. I know you said it's not gonna be much more than they do now, but we need to hear from them. I think if those things are put
Right.
together, you don't need to be allowed to come back. If you work with staff on that and come back with a comprehensive package,
Yep.
I think that's what's needed here, Ken, to be honest.
And that sounds fine. I think what I submitted in the report, it's in the backup documentation, which Aaron, you were looking at, that has the current quote from them, which has all the costs. But it doesn't, to your point, Don, it doesn't say, okay, how are we all gonna pay for this thing? Who's in on this
Right.
thing, who's not? And the question I got is, how do we figure out is what would the city find attractive to invest in this as well? So we can propose, like, if we said, hey, we're in for half, or you guys in for half, you know, is that a fair place to start? And then, you know, we might be able to go look
Yep.
for, you know, grants other places, but what we've talked is MLR was handing out grants for this, and they got their budget cut, so they don't have the money for these in lakes, that's what we've been told
Right.
at this point. So I
Right.
think it's gonna be on between the Lake Association and the city's shoulders to try to make it happen.
Yeah, and we're all relatively new commission members, except for our esteemed Vice Chair Karen, but, so I'm not familiar at all what's in the tri-party agreement, if that's the source for that discussion, but it's,
Yeah.
I guess I would look to Dave and Kyle in this, but it seems like working with staff on, similar to other groups that come in here looking for partnerships, and to have that discussion. Karen?
I agree with what you're saying, but I didn't understand him wanting that. He was, to me, asking if we'd be open to it, if it came to be, if the finances were all in, you know, is it something that we would think is a good addition? I don't see you asking for any commitment on any of the project,
That's right.
so
No,
I'm,
just
so
if
I wouldn't
if
be.
it all lines up, it looks good, would you cite one of these things at the Lakeside Park? So then
you
I
come
can go
back.
back and talk to my team and to the vendor and say, hey, it looks like, you know, if we make this thing look attractive and everybody's happy with it, that you guys would move forward.
Nikki?
I have one more question. So we are talking Hennepin County. What about Washington County? Who has these in Washington County?
I don't know if I have any installations in Washington County.
Because I saw
'Cause that
Lake
would be White
Minnetonka
Bear.
as a reference, right?
Yeah.
And they're much, much bigger
And
than us. And so I just want to know,
I saw one on Turtle Lake. That's the
Oh.
closest one that I went to, and I know that's not in Washington, but I don't think Turtle Lake's in Washington County. But that's the only one that I know of that I've been to. I can check on it, see if there's any others.
yeah, I
So-
would just be interested.
Yeah, that is a great
And then
question.
as well, you know, what, and I don't mean this to be in a bad way, but vacuuming and spraying off and all the kind of things, you know, how much is it needed right now up there? Who needs that coming to the lake, right? And who says they're missing it coming off of the lake? Those are kind of the statistics that I'd like to see, right? Is there
Yeah.
been complaints? Is it really that, you know, I get it, I love the concept, all the things to have it there. And the vandalism to me is the first thing that automatically pops up to me. I mean, truthfully, we have thousands of people up there on a Tuesday night like last night.
Right,
And all the things, there's not people up there monitoring all the time. And you have all of the different contraptions that come in place of it. I myself can see after the first week, we're gonna have to be putting a new vacuum hose in, or we're gonna have to get a new brush, and we can't keep up with that every week. You know, and so there would have to be some kind of a security system somehow, some way. How do we
right, right.
maintain that on a daily basis from 6 AM to 12 PM? You
Yeah.
know, or how do we maintain that? I don't
Well,
know.
that's a great question. I'll talk to the vendor. There might be, you know, they've got internet connection on these things. Maybe put a camera on it. I don't know if these things are vandalized, but I'm not sure how you tell. You
Yeah,
know,
and that's the
something
hard part too,
versus
right? Is
Can't
that-
keep, you don't want privacy, you don't want to be taking people's pictures while they're cleaning their boats necessarily, so.
Yeah, but that's the hard part too, is that it's not everybody just from our town. So we
Right.
can have a camera, but how do we know where to go find them?
Yeah, for sure. Yes. Yes.
Are
So
they
we're just,
seeing,
you know, we look at this as just being it's another, what else can we do to prevent AIS? Well, we could pay more inspectors, have them out there 7 days a week, but that's pretty costly. And this is more of a capital investment to solution to cover those other days and educate people and get them to go do this themselves. So it is a self-serve idea.
I'm just curious, because like the stats of, what was it, 70%? They've seen like the utilization of it. But my question is that actually reducing costs for these cities who have put it in as far as them having to do this maintenance with the AIS, right? Are they,
Okay.
are they having to dredge less? Are they having to spray, you know, for weeds less? Like, is it reducing costs to the city by people using it? Because my only concern is the people who are going to use that are already the people that are cleaning their boats,
Uh-huh.
right? So it's going to make it easier for them to clean their boats, but the spread that we have is from people who don't clean their boats. to begin with.
Right.
So are you seeing a reduction as far as those cities' cost to maintaining those lakes by keeping the invasive species out?
It's a good question, and I spoke to Tony Bro specifically at Hennepin County to ask how his experience was. He said that one of the key things was having pavement markers that went with this thing. So when you pulled in, it says, stop, do this next, right? If you got stuff on your boat, go do this. So more instructional, and they found that was really effective and forced people to, use these tools and actually get their money out of it. So, but it also made, to answer your questions, Aaron, also, I think if next time I come back, I might like to bring if it's okay, is bring the vendor with, because this is
That
their.
would be great.
They know their equipment. I'm just a
Right.
intermediary.
We're good partners with the Lake Association, so we don't want to ruin that. We want to continue that for sure.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And,
Yeah, and that's why we come here first, just to say, this is what we know, and
Right.
then, we can go back and try to find out more.
Because the big thing for me is like, what's the cost on the city? Because I mean, the city's hopefully going to recoup some cost by having to dredge less or spend less on maintenance on our lake. But my concern is when you start having all the costs that start to add up. So like right here alone, I'm already at $1,300 into it every year
Yeah,
just to have it,
yes.
right? And then it's like, okay, well, it's solar powered. Well, that's a battery, and it's got to be a decent sized battery because it's running a shop vac. So
That's right.
kind of like
Yeah, it's got
everybody,
a
will,
battery. At some point, it's got to be replaced.
folks driving an electric car, they get to 10 years, they're starting to go, how much is it going to cost to replace this battery? So
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
what's the cost of ownership over time
Yeah, that's a great question.
of the tool? Because if you got a high cost without a lot of benefit that you can kind of quantify, it's kind of hard to go for
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, good points, well made.
Karen?
I'm just looking at the staff to know that, the Lake Association would bring it back with the questions that are good questions that are being asked. And is it wrong to just let them say, it's a good concept, we have no idea if it's gonna work out, but they then have some reason to continue their studies? Or is it better to not raise the hopes and tell them to come back next time, we'll be in a better mood or something? I don't know.
So, if I may, I think a lot of this, and this request for the location comes back to the historical part of this. In 2017, the actual CEO of this company came and wanted to put one of these stations in for a pilot program at Lakeside Park. It came down to, at that time, staff did not want another thing jammed inside that park, and then cost. And at that time, the cost was $10,000, and now it's went to $45,000. So I think why they're asking this question is, do you want that here's more or less, should we be spending more time on this to try to figure out these costs and all this, or do we just not want this in the park? And I think that's why they're asking this question that's why they're trying to get that first is, are you okay with this being in the park? If the answer is no, we don't want another thing in the park, then we just move on and we don't worry about how much it's going to cost annually and what the cell package is and the pavement markings and all this stuff, right? If yes, that looks like a good spot and we see the benefit, well, then that's when they would come back work with staff and with the vendor and all that with a more in-depth cost. But I think that is kind of why they're looking for that initial blessing is it's not worth going through all that other work if, no, we don't want this inside the park.
You keep saying inside the park. I don't see this inside the park. I see this as part of the boat landing.
It's just it's in the grass. I mean, you're pouring a pad and you're putting it inside of Lakeside Park. It's just,
But we go on the
that's
inside of the
Yeah,
park.
it's
to this
right-
picture right
Yeah,
here
it's
that
right
you're
on
looking
the-
at.
It's hard, it's
Right
hard to
on
see
the
on these
edge.
little screens, but you guys got it on your screen? So
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
little, where it says CD3, that little blue box, that's where we're thinking of siting it. It's next to, there's two trees, and it's right as you're exiting the boat ramp.
It's not a bad spot. That wouldn't throw me the spot, but
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to exploration, like looking into it more, but I don't know.
Realistically, it's middle of July, you probably wouldn't be able to install it this year yet.
It would be definitely a next year project,
Okay,
yeah.
I think it's up to you if you want to, hearing what you've heard and knowing what our staff is wanting to, be careful of, if you're still willing to put in the work to bring it back, because I can't get a whole picture of it right now.
Yeah.
I'm not upset about the site, but also I have no idea what's going to happen to that boat launch. So I think it's all on you if you want to put on any more time and effort to get the information that we'd have to need, what we'd have to have.
Sure.
I don't know. I didn't think it hurt anything, that's why I kind of asked you guys, I thought. They're not asking me to do any more work. They're-
You're asking them and staff to do more work on this, but I think the question is if everybody up there right now is completely fine with, if everything pans out and costs get figured out and staff time gets figured out, the commission is fine with putting something, that unit, that CD3 unit inside the park at that location. If the commission feels that would be fine, then yes, that would be the next step. I think that's what the whole premise is here, is to make sure everyone in the commission is fine with that being inside the park or at that
If he
location.
comes back with all of the information that we believe in, the prices, if all of that takes care of. So we're just saying now, it's worth looking at, but we need a lot more information and how much expense, and if it was turned down once, it'd be a nice idea to, was it the money or was it the,
Well, and I think we need more as, for us as Parks and Recs, I mean, we do need a more solidified answer of what's our study come back on the boat launch. Right, I understand it's just a concrete pad, but the traffic and the AIS problems that we're having, what are other problems that we're having? Why do we need to bring this in? I don't live on the lake, so I don't know those issues.
So the one that's the most worrisome is Starry Stoneward. So we're trying to, keep that one. If that gets into the lake, it's really bad. It's one of these that turns into a mat that it's like, you can't navigate through it with a boat. So this is.
Have we
don't
ever
have
had it here?
We don't have it in our lake.
Okay.
We've had their boats, I think it was 75 boats last year came to our lake from lakes with Starry Stoneward. So that was based on the boat inspectors asking people as they come in. And, they double check and inspect those boats. But those are the types of boats that's what we're trying to do, prevent that type of AIS getting into the lake.
Yeah, and I guess I would be more interested too, is how many boats come in and out. If it was only 75 boats from
Yes.
April until October,
Yeah, several thousand come
$45,000
through.
investment doesn't seem appropriate.
But the scale, if you have this problem, then you really got a major problem for the lake. It's not something that's easy to go out and spray with weed, herbicide, try to control this. It's bad. It's really, if you look at the lakes that have this AIS, it's a major battle, and it would be a huge financial burden for the city.
So, Ken, just to that's discussions that we'll maybe have more in-depth conversations on. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, does this commission feel like that spot would be okay for this, or would you guys like to pass? That's ultimately what you guys will have to provide a recommendation on.
I'm fine
I
with
mean,
it.
I'm not until we know more what we're gonna do, right? I don't wanna invest and put this in.
So if you guys are okay with that location or the concept of it being there, then we'll bring it back with all that details, and then you guys can say, yeah, no, this just, after looking at all these details, no, we're not okay moving forward. You will have a chance to say yay or nay of it coming in, but it's just, are we okay with it being in the park? So if we're okay with that item being in the park, we'll look into all those details, bring it back and say, if we were to have this is what it would cost, and this is what the agreement would look like, and who does what, and all those in between the lines. But if it's something that you guys are like, we don't want that there because of potential vandalism, potential city having to do anything, then we will just not even have a conversation about it. So Chair, if we could try to get the recommendation, and just do a vote on if we're okay with it being in the park, that would be kind of the goal here.
okay, I'm hearing Karen's okay with it in the park.
I am.
I'm okay with it in the park.
Sorry, Aaron, what?
I said I'm okay with it in the park.
Okay.
You go first, I'm a horse of peace right now. I'm half and half.
Yeah,
I don't.
I certainly can see this as a valuable tool for AIS, Ken, there's no doubt about that. I'm just torn with, we keep trying to put 10 pounds of potatoes into a 5-pound sack in our parks, and this is a lot of activity there, so my preference would be is wait till we have a boat launch, know where it's gonna be, and it be, actually be where it's just a dedicated boat launch and not part of the park system. If you could ask the owner if there's some spots where do have these things in an active park, and we go look at it, that, you know, that would be different, but tonight I would say my preference would be not to have it in the park.
Yeah, like I said, I do like it, but again, it's gonna be the maintenance for me. That's one of the things. It's the accessibility, having it in the park. It's the people coming in and out of the park. I know we could have the cameras, but that's not always gonna be people pulling up in a boat with a license plate that we can go and track. I would love it if we continue the boat launch, you know, story, see where we end up. I don't know. I'm gonna go with yes and bring us back more detail.
Okay,
Thank you, Nikki.
all right.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Karen.
Okay.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, so
Move on to dock extension
So
proposal.
the dock extension, I'll just brief us on quick, and certainly, hopefully we can get done with this one within 30 minutes. But, so just at the end of the day, it's just a pretty simple request that the Lake Association would like to bring additional dock slips potential to our current public docks that are already down at Lakeside. There's within the report that the Lake Association provided that there's a demand for the dock space. There's a lot of use of the docks. It's mostly to bring people down into the park, into potential businesses. One thing that staff had been working on previous to the Lake Association's request is obviously because of that boat launch study, we've been tracking the boat trailers, the parking at the docks. And right now, staff isn't seeing an overly high demand of the dock spaces, other than obviously like the 4th of July, Tuesday night, Arts in the Park, it's certainly busy. But we do have, if I can just plug in really quick here. Just to give you an idea of so far the numbers that we have tracked. Just to give you guys a visual, this is throughout each day that we've been tracking what we're seeing at the docks, where, you know, 9 a.m. slot average per day of how many days. So you can see boat trailers, in total, there's been, you know, 85 boat trailers at 9 a.m. when our staff has been there. Again, this is, you know, tracked by the park rangers. You can see the public dock at 9 a.m. comparatively. So you got 85 people in the parking lot and 5 people at the dock. And then at 1 p.m., you'll see 153 people, trailers, and then 26 at the dock. So there's a pretty, you know, discretion of how many people are at the boat landing versus coming into those docks. Certainly, there's an argument that there's days where traffic is higher than others, and certainly with events and 4th of July, holidays type of activities, that number will go up. And I think that's the premise of why the Lake Association's here, is just to try to say, hey, if we can get more spots here, I believe the idea is that the docks would be provided by the Lake Association.
Yes.
There would be the expectation that the city would be responsible for annual installation and removal.
Yes.
And I think in the report it was included that our public works at this time, we're out as far as we can get into the water without being, you know, too deep where our guys can't, you know, be above water. So it would be bringing in a service to install those docks. And then within that report, you'll see there's a difference of the annual cost, just to do that extension portion, or to do the whole dock system. There's that cost shared. Certainly, you know, the concern that, you know, I would have as staff would be just what happens with those costs. Do they go up? And if we were to go with the annual, the whole dock being installed and removed. So that would be something just to kind of consider here. But otherwise, you know, within the report, you can see the notes, and I think Ken has some other things to discuss with you guys as well, and you guys can have that conversation.
Yeah, and I'll try to go through these quickly, because I think you've covered it well. Thank you very much, Kyle. So that, you know, it's the main thing is that what we see and feedback from our members is that this is super popular. The public dock is, it's Tuesday night is the peak. I mean, the dock is full. People, I was there last night, so I walked down the dock and said, hey, what do you think? Are we gonna go talk to the city and see if they wanna extend this? They're like, oh, absolutely. I talked to like a half a dozen boat owners, and they're just, yeah, this is great. This is really helps to draw in people from the lake, come down there and be part of the community. Lakeside Park event, I think it's a key thing for the city. This is part of our identity, and having that dock is a great addition. We've put into this dock so far about $20,000, just so you have an idea, over the last 10 years. And we just put in another $1,800 because we put bumpers on all the corners after we got some feedback that boats were getting dinged on those corners as they're coming. Actually, I didn't know. And now, I've got thumbs up email. We sent it out to the members. They're really happy that we did that as well. Also heard AJ Reed. I talked to him. He's the varsity coach for the. Of course, you all probably know AJ. So, and he said they use the dock as well. They had about 45 kids out there for part of the fishing thing. So, you know, they use it a lot? No, but when they use it, they're really happy that they've got it. So as AJ said, we're proposing that we donate the dock. It's around like $15,000 to add these sections. Docks have gone up in price since we originally did the $20,000 investment. The current dock was a joint investment between the city and ourselves, so that when we expanded, we originally put out just a pier, and the last extension was putting out the wings, and we did that jointly. And now this would be, we're just saying we would pay for all the capital that's required. Picture of Lakeside Park on a Tuesday night. This is the kids, the high school kids out using the dock for one of the fishing activities. So it's, you know, it's getting used. And then this is the current configuration of the dock. So it's 24, 27 slips roughly. Some people can park in this straightaway section between the shore and the first docks. That depends on how shallow the lake is, you know, but you can get some extra boats in there. And then what we're planning to do is add you can see this T, it's got 4 more, you know, wings coming off of there. So it's not a big addition, but as Kyle said, that's just like right above waiter height for the guys as they're going out there. So you really need a barge. And we talked to Blake Dahlbeck. Blake doesn't really want to do it, but he's got one of his people that used to work for him is Andy Mars. Andy Mars has started his own company. You may all know Andy. It's called Minnesota Marine, and he has a barge. So he's doing this kind of work. He gave us the quote. You could also ask for other competitive bids, but I think Andy's, you know, young, upstarting guy. He's gave I think a good quote. So let's see. Yeah, it would be about $15,000 from us, and from the city side, just to install the extension, it's $800, but there's also a $500 one-time delivery fee for getting the stuff out there, so total is $1,300. And then to do the current city dock, either installation or removal, that's $3,900. So you add those two numbers together, to get the annual per year would be $4,700 to put this whole larger dock in and take it out. That's a twice a year expense for doing that.
Wow, it's a lot of money.
And one I just mentioned is that it takes about, from a timing perspective, so what was I thinking for timing? You know, I would love to have it happen this year, but I think the problem is I looked into delivery. It takes about 3 weeks to get the dock sections. You know, if we tried to formalize things between all of us, that probably takes a few weeks, you know. Maybe I'm being optimistic on that. And so I think this is really a next year project where we would have this extension, be ready to go, have all the dock sections teed up with Blake. Blake Dahlbeck would supply the equipment, and it'd be ready to go for next year. That is it. So request is we would donate, city would pay for the installation removal, and it's roughly about $4,700 annual expense for each way.
Thanks, Ken. Dave, the current dock out there's, excuse me, look at the diagrams, 254 feet long. What's the Public Works experience with that length of dock out there? Do we have issues out there with it?
Here comes Mr. Negative.
Knew he'd wake up sooner or later.
I just know as longer docks get, that's all. I'm
Yep.
just, and you've got experience.
Well, it's the second year in a row now that we've had to remove the last 10 sections of dock because it's gotten hit so hard, or the pontoons are pulling it off the ground. So right now we've reduced 4 slips on there right now, plus the fishing pier, because this one was hit so hard on the 4th of July that there's 3 panels that we have to buy new ones. But this is year 2 that's happened in the same section. So the concern on Public Works is it's a quality dock. I mean, I'm not saying that the flow docks aren't quality docks, just this application is really tough for it. It's the farther and farther you get away from shore. Public Works concern would be that you're just going another X amount of feet out, and number 2, you're adding a cost. We can't, staff, there's a cost for Public Works, it's our time to do it out there, but we do that, but this would go past the wader line and we can't get out any deeper than we are. We actually, the ones we do right now, I mean, people putting in the last dock are getting water through the waders, it's that deep, or you can't do it on a windy day.
This,
So it's kind of twofold, the concern of just going farther out, just the way that it seems that the dock seems to get damaged the farther and farther it gets out, and then just the annual cost. I mean, it would be a cost that the city would have to start paying for, that right now we're not paying for.
if my math is right, we'd end up with about a 300-foot, so a football field. Does the DNR have restrictions on how long a dock can be?
They do not. Well, the restrictions are you can't go into like basically a known path. So if it's like you can't extend into a channel or into a navigable area. So this one, they actually were checked with the DNR and there was no comment or no issue with it being farther out. So
No requirement for lighting or anything?
there's no requirement on that side. It's strictly, you can keep going out as long as you're not, getting in the way of a known pattern of
Okay.
boats.
Could we potentially do another run rather than extending it all the way out?
Yeah.
Do another dock?
The problem with that is, I think he even shows on his diagram that there's a potential other slip on your what am I thinking? Your far west or your left-hand side. Once you get close to shore, those can be slips if the water's high enough. So that's the problem, is that it's so shallow by shore that even if you created another slip, you have to go, I don't know what that is, Ken, 50 feet before you can even really put pontoons again, or slips. So it starts so shallow that you have to get out so far to be able,
I think it's 24 feet between the wings.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know a lot about this stuff, but I mean, the ones up closer to shore, could you dredge it to make sure it's deeper? I don't know what I don't know.
Dredging's another issue, and another issue with doing another dock is you start dabbling into, are you creating a marina then? And then that's a whole nother EAW that you may have to do that. I'm sure Stephen would love to hear that he has to do another one of them, but,
So, yeah.
and another issue of just continuing to block the lake, and that's the concern even when if the boat launch was removed, some type of joining up with your boat club and kind of making one dock section over to the side, so the concern would be you just keep adding these slips or docks, and all of a sudden now if you go to park there and look out at the lake, all you see is boats and docks. So
I certainly understand why people would want more docks for arts in the park and those peak demands. We have people asking, can we get more parking in the park with cars? But it's really tough to build facilities for Easter Sunday, church crowd. I think Kyle's statistics, when I was looking at them, shows that typically that there are spots down there, but I would suggest that, I don't know if you could add enough slips out there, Ken, for arts in the park to meet the demand. And so if you've got create operational issues by just adding a little bit, I'm not sure that's the best place for your resources or our resources, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't want to come across as I'm against everything you're proposing tonight, but these are these are the real, when we look at it, things comprehensive, these are the issues that, you know, I see there. And I just don't think you're going to meet the demand with adding 6. When I hear Public Works saying it's going to create operational issues, it seems like this is probably not the time to extend those docks out there. Boy, I start looking at, you're just not going to meet peak demand out there no matter what you do. And you start talking about a football field long dock,
It's a long dock.
that's a long dock. And that's not to do,
You can't configure it, I don't know anything about this, because I don't have a boat, but I know you people do. And can't you configure it where it doesn't have to go just out, that they, you can't do
You know,
that?
it might, the only thought I had is that could you have a second one with this, you know, similar type of configuration? And then that, you know, where does it go? It has to go towards the swimming area. I don't know if there's space there or not. We haven't looked at it, but could you have a second one that's 2 of them that are about the same size, or add one more over there that's slightly shorter? Maybe, I don't know. You guys have any thoughts on that? Is there any room over there to put in another one?
You'd have to look into that. I mean, you need so much room in between both the docks to be able to say if you have 2 28-foot pontoons, that you'd both be able to back out at the same time and turn. I mean, we ran into this situation with your boat club too, and trying to figure out that spacing in between the 2 docks. You'd have to spend some time to figure that out. And
Might be able to
Just-
go one rib, send out one spine, and then just ribs on one side, instead of on 2 sides, could they try to, you know, reduce it?
Yeah,
We're open to ideas to look at it as,
just back to that marina concept, and extending one dock, DNR doesn't have an issue, but you'd have to also run back, adding another dock could create some issues with that as well.
It'd be interesting to hear their thoughts if they didn't seem to have any worries on this other one that I think is really crazy to go out a football field, but it's just, let them make the decision on that or whatever. But we keep putting in things, let's go fishing, that's a great opportunity, and I don't know that creates a problem, because they just usually have one boat at a time.
They use the Euro Boat Club, so they
Okay.
don't use this dock.
And then the students, we have an amazing amount of students in that club,
yeah.
but they, again, they don't
It's
have.
intermittent, yeah, it is intermittent use of the public dock.
Yeah.
I was reading that I thought it was more often, but I haven't been able to get statistics from AJ. I just did some web searches, and it sounds like they do a lot of traveling to other lakes in addition to using our lake, so it's not as you
Can
know,
the
much
ex-
as I thought.
Can the extension be a floating dock? So like on the end, they would be floating instead of, because you guys could install floating docks, right? I mean, you're,
Spare time.
I don't know if you'd have to, I mean, it's all one modular dock, right? And you can add sections to the same dock, but I don't know about transitioning to a different dock system.
okay.
I think you'd run into issues with the height, because the floating dock will sit a lot higher out of the water, and this one, if you've been down there, as you get to the end, you're pretty much lake level.
Another key piece in this too, right, goes back to our previous conversation about the boat launch. So, you know, what are we doing with that? And I think certainly within that potential plan, you know, there's some more space to the north where you could potentially bring in more dock slips and stuff like that. So, I mean, certainly it could just be, maybe it's not a no, period, but maybe it's let's see what happens, because we're kind of actively going through that boat launch discussion and see what comes from that. And then certainly could change everything, right? So if this commission says, hey, this again is another thing that we're not against, but timing says, let's wait to see what happens first and then come back after this study happens. I mean, that's certainly a possibility, what we can leave here today with. To just not say no, but again, timing.
I agree with that. Do you have to have a motion, or can it be just consensus? Because it looks like we all 3 agree with that. You're right on that issue. And the boat club could still do some serious looking or thinking and,
It'd just be a table,
yeah,
table.
but not a no, but a table.
It's okay with me?
okay.
This is crazy,
No,
but-
no is harder.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
This is probably really dumb, but I know people that live on the lake, they have students, you know, a football team come in, and they change take in, put out docks. But that's nothing that we could do here, right?
No.
That would be a tough one. I mean, you just, again, having volunteers do, it's just like the playgrounds, right? It's a great idea, but you have volunteers doing something, then you gotta inspect it, and it's liability issues, and certainly, again, it would be great, but just probably not the wisest thing to do.
Okay.
Good.
Table,
Thank-
not a no.
Sounds good. Thanks very much. Thank you for your
Thanks,
time.
Ken.
For all you guys do out there and the money you spend, we can't thank you enough.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. I'll pass that along to our team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Parks Master Plan.
I think we're gonna skip back up to the Birchwood Estates now. Oh, you guys are good with that, the Birchwood? Okay, sorry, yeah, so, we have, so I'm just gonna take a second here to get, join call. We have, we're gonna start with the Ballard King, outdoor athletic field study. I do have Ballard King that's gonna jump on a call and just to do a, quick, high-level overview, of the study that they provided there. Just, it's kinda nice to not hear from us all the time on these types of things, so, if you wanna just give a second, I'll just give an overview of that. So this is the athletic field study that, was done within partnership of the school district where we, looked into, the athletic facilities of both the city and school. You know, certainly, there's a lot of information to pull from this, but it's just, it gives a good high-level overview of exactly, what both systems have and, you know, what we could potentially do with those systems. So, let me just shift it here. Darren, can you hear me? Technology.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you now.
Excellent.
Just 1 second here.
I've got the presentation up. If you want me to share my screen, I could do that, Kyle.
Yep, you can do that. And then we're just gonna test out this audio. We kinda got a little system going here. Darren, if you could just give an introduction, I just wanna make sure our commissioners can hear you.
Yep. Can you guys see the screen? My name is Darren Barr. I'm the president of Ballard King and Associates.
No screen, but we can hear you.
Give us a second. 1 second.
Usually if you plug the HDMI cord, it helps to pull up the screen. All right, Darren, you have, I think, your visuals up and we're good on audio.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start talking, Kyle. And if for some reason you guys need me to stop in the middle or you have questions or whatever the case might be, please do so. Interrupt, and I would be happy to do that. So thank you guys so much for accommodating the virtual participation tonight. I truly appreciate that. But moreover, thank you for engaging Ballard King and Associates to go ahead and to discuss this important project. Anytime you're going ahead and doing a master plan and kind of working towards the future and what you want to be, it's always great to go ahead and take these opportunities to do an analysis. When Kyle originally reached out to us, it was with the idea of focusing on fields. But as we went ahead and as we had further conversations and things evolved, he also asked us to take a look at, obviously there's an indoor pool that's there that's operated by the school district and an ice rink as well. So we expanded out our scope a little bit and we're going to talk about some of our findings. So the scope of services really focused on conducting a market assessment, which involved looking at the demographics of both the city of Forest Lake and the school district. We conducted a series of on-site focus group meetings over 2 to 3 days. Many of those were with some of the youth sports groups, so soccer, lacrosse, football, baseball, softball, but we also visited with representatives from the school district. We met with representatives from the city, so there's some significant staff engagement. We reviewed a lot of the existing information, so we went ahead and took a look at what reservation information looked like from the city, how programs were being delivered, those kinds of things, and then made a series of recommendations that we will go through on a high level this evening. So the recommendation focus really was on number of facilities, right? That always becomes a big question. How many of these should we have? How many rectangles? How many diamonds? How many pools? How many lap lanes? All those kinds of things. We were also asked to go ahead and speak to the idea of management, who should be in charge of all of these facilities, take a look at fee structure, and then programming and rental opportunities. So really took a holistic view of the three facility types, fields, pools, and ice rinks, and where the future kind of lies for the city and the school district. When we went ahead and looked at city facilities, so the map that is on the screen goes ahead and maps the different parks that are in Forest Lake. You guys have what I would refer to as a pretty amazing system. You have 23 parks, you have 251 acres of parkland, and you do that, you manage all of that with a staff of approximately 13 people, and that goes ahead and takes into account for Department of Public Works and Kyle to that. Of your 23 parks, there's probably 4 of them that are the actual red pinpoints on that dot that go ahead and involve athletic fields of some variety. When we're asked to go ahead and to provide comparisons, we typically lean on data from the National Recreation and Park Association. There are approximately 10,000 parks and recreation agencies across the United States. There's probably 1,000 of them that are then members of the NRPA. They go ahead and submit their data on their agency on an annual basis. So that allows us, Ballard King, to come back and make some comparisons. So when you start to compare the city's inventory to other communities that are in that 20,000 to 49,999 population, acres per 1,000 residents, the city is at 12.1. The median is 11.2, so you're actually exceeding the median. When you start talking about staffing, FTE equivalents, the city's at 13. The median for communities in that range of 20,000 to 49,000 is 41.5. So that goes ahead and that obviously illustrates a gap. But then you go ahead and look at things another way. Staffing per 10,000 residents within the city, you're at about 6.3. Median number is 11.5. All of that to not be critical of what the city's doing, but just to simply underline what you're maintaining with the staff you have in place. You're doing an incredible job. I don't want that to get lost. That doesn't mean that they couldn't use more resources and more things to help them, but the staff that's there is doing a great job. It was wonderful to talk with Kyle and his cohorts and just understand, hey, if there's a day where mowing needs to get done, it's all hands on deck and we do that. If you need to get ball fields prepped, it's all hands on deck and we do that. It's just whether or not we have all the hands necessary to do that long term. And some other benchmark information just from a standpoint of, again, communities in that 20,000 to 50,000 range. Most of them have a parks and recreation budget of about 4.2 million. Of that 4.2 million, that 30 to 40, maybe even 45% is dedicated to parks. When you talk about the cumulative 5-year capital spending budget for agencies of similar size, it's about $9.5 million. So again, not to say the city's doing good, bad, right, or wrong. It goes ahead and provides a baseline of comparison. When we start talking about the school district facilities, obviously we went ahead and we mapped those as well. That's in the report. 9 different school locations. All of them have fields on some level. But when you start to take a look at both the school district and the city inventory, which we'll do on the next couple slides, there's a variety of playability versus practice versus games. For instance, we have some of the elementary schools. I can't remember the name of the one off the top of my head. I apologize for that. It has an amazing field behind it where you could probably have 5 or 6 soccer fields going at the same time. The challenge with some of those facilities, especially as it relates to elementary schools, is parking. right? You have a group of 10 teams that are playing, and all the participants and all of the spectators, and having a spot for them to park and be there, and having one group leave and the other group come in. So those are important assets. Typically, when we go ahead and when we're talking with communities that are in a similar size as yours, the city is not necessarily big enough to provide everything, but at the same point, the school district isn't necessarily big enough to provide everything as well. So you kind of begin to look at things as a collective. Again, kind of going back to that NRPA data, National Recreation and Park Association, they provide information on diamond fields, rectangle fields, swimming pools, synthetic rectangles, overlay fields, and ice rinks. These are all outdoor amenities. So how this particular top chart reads is that rectangle fields, 71% of NRPA agencies go ahead and provide those. In communities that are in similar population, approximately 4,300 people per facility. Facilities by population would suggest that a population the size of Forest Lake could support 4.8 rectangles. Currently in the Forest Lake inventory, you have 3. So if you go ahead and if you use this information, one would assume that just from a city perspective, maybe we're a little over-invested in terms of diamonds, maybe a little under-invested as it relates to rectangles. But again, what's the difference? How many are competition fields? How many are practice fields? There's some nuance to this conversation. I don't want that to get lost. And then the chart below that goes ahead and takes the school district plus the city inventory. Now all of a sudden we're talking about a population of 50,000 plus that's within the school district boundaries. So the population per facility changes a little bit. Again, you're probably invested at an adequate level in terms of diamonds. Rectangles, those are a variety of rectangles, so what you want to do with those. You don't have an outdoor pool, but to be frank, given the climate that you're in, I don't know that that's necessarily an investment direction you want to go. You have synthetic rectangles, you have some overlay fields, all of those types of things. We also went ahead and used the information to look at indoor comparisons. Again, you have an indoor aquatic center. The population would suggest you could support one of those. You have an indoor ice rink. It has 2 sheets of ice. But using this data set, it would suggest that a population of the school district, within the school district boundaries, could go ahead and support that. When we begin to talk about recommendations and fields from a system perspective, right? When I say system, I'm talking about, you talk about the total inventory of the school district and the city, right? It's important to consider that. Knee-jerk reaction, not even a knee-jerk, but a reaction supported with data. You don't necessarily need more, right? What we need better identification between what's a practice facility, what's a competition facility, and the characteristics that delineate between the two of those. Another thing that's important when you talk about the fields, and this is something that we heard time and time again with the field use groups, is consistency of amenities. So if they walk out on a Forest Lake School District rectangle, based upon how that rectangle is maintained and cared for, that should be similar to a city facility or vice versa. There are very few organizations that we work with that can have an inventory that accommodates the demand at peak times. So during the school year from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. During the summer, similar time, but also during the day. But what they seek more than anything is that consistency of amenities. So that's something that as you move into the future, going ahead and talking about how we maintain our spaces, how the school district maintains their spaces. From an overall perspective, Ballard King would recommend that the city and the school district continue to manage their own facilities, with the caveat being that they have a great line of communication now, and that needs to continue, right? Kyle, on his side, from the city perspective, has no issues picking up the phone and calling the school district, vice versa. that level of communication, that level of working together for all the groups to continue to be successful is something that needs to move forward. If you're talking about city recommendations specific, and I know all of these come with dollar amounts, but if you're going ahead and if you're saying we're not going to expand our inventory, but we're going to enhance our inventory and gain that consistency and try and extend the playable season both earlier into the spring, later into the fall, and later into the evening, probably need to at some point have some consideration of artificial turf, primarily at the Fenway Park location, looking at maybe 2 to 3 diamonds and at least 1 rectangle. Lights are always a concern, especially when you're in a municipality and you're in a residential area. I will say that bright lights in the current lighting systems that are out there have much less light pollution as opposed to 20 years ago. But going ahead and considering lights on a couple diamonds and a couple rectangles to extend that playable time is something that you might want to consider. And then continue to evaluate staffing levels. As the city goes ahead and takes over the management of Fenway and going ahead and making sure that fields are prepped for practices and for games and for tournaments, we need to continue to evaluate that. There are some organizations, granted they're larger than yours, that have dedicated work crews for sports fields. Some of them include FTEs, some of them are seasonal FTEs, some of them are just seasonal staff. But the expectations of some of your user groups is not going to decrease. It's only going to stay static or increase over time. So making sure that you're meeting those expectations or figuring out what it takes to meet those expectations is important. When we start talking about the pool, needs to continue to program to residents and those in the school district. Obviously, with a school district facility, you have a truncated time frame during the school week of when you can offer programs. So there's kind of the programs to the community and internal programs, but continuing to offer those opportunities for all residents is important. The other thing to consider, this pool was built in 1985. Most aquatic facilities built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s were built with the idea of having a 30 to 40 year life cycle. The school district has done an admirable job of going ahead and taking care of that facility. I have no complaints or concerns in that area, but you're moving on to 40 years now. It's a little painful for me to say that because that means I'm 50 years. So what does that mean for me? But we need to evaluate and determine where that facility is at on its life cycle spectrum. And then based on that evaluation and direction, there's the strong potential that you might want to conduct a feasibility study for what's it going to take to renovate that facility or develop a new aquatic center. And based on that feasibility study, whether it's funding the feasibility study, building a new facility or renovating a new facility, managing a renovated or new facility, there's the potential for enhanced partnership between the city and the school district. Not an uncommon occurrence when you start talking about aquatics facilities. When we start talking about ice, until we're at a point with the current indoor ice rinks, you've got 2 sheets of ice. Until we're at a point where that ice is maximized, I don't know that you're in a position where either the city or the school district would consider adding an additional indoor sheet of ice. Most facilities that we walk into, whether it's a single sheet or a double sheet, and if you tell me as a member of Ballard King and coming in to do an audit, say, well, we've got people on the ice at 6 o'clock in the morning and we're busy until 11 o'clock at night. Great. That's what you need to do if you want to make those facilities as cost effective as possible and have the largest ROI. So until you kind of get to that point or begin to push some of those boundaries, that's kind of the litmus test for when we need to start maybe considering an additional indoor sheet. We also know that ice is at its greatest demand in that October through March timeframe. And to that end, it might be cost effective to consider some enhancements to outdoor rinks that don't have consistent ice. So with maybe warmer winters or weather shifts, considering a refrigeration plant so that we know that we have ice, considering an ice finishing machine like a Zamboni to go ahead and refinish ice during those times would go ahead and would gain you that extra sheet of ice during that peak season. Would require some level of investment, but not the full, hey, we have to build a building and do all those kinds of things. Some other stuff, and this is just considerations, it's not saying you have to do this. Developing some cost recovery goals for the ice rink would be important. Potentially adopting more of a business-minded approach to operations and how do we maximize usage throughout the day of both the ice, the meeting rooms, everything that's there. And with any youth sports program, hockey's doing a great job, but how do we go ahead and how do we expand entry-level programming, right? When you think about that program pyramid, having as big and as broad of a base as possible to ensure long-term success is important. When we talk about fee structure, makes everybody very uncomfortable because how much do we want to pay? Ballard King as a group is not suggesting that you try and balance your budgets on the back of youth sports organizations or nonprofit groups. However, charging fees for fields, ice, and pools, it's an industry standard of best practice. When we go to an organization and they say we're not charging for those things, and we begin to calculate what you're going ahead and what you're giving away in terms of staff, consumables, utilities, long-term capital improvements, some of those kinds of things, it's a significant amount. So to go ahead and keep those things in good working order and just make sure that they're ready and playable, there needs to be some level of fee associated with that. And to that end, fees should, at minimum, they need to absorb staffing time. They need to absorb consumables. We're also, Ballard King is a big proponent of one fee should cover everything. So if you're paying a fee for use of a diamond, that should include, hey, we're going to prep the field, we're going to line the field, we're going to make sure that it's unlocked, we're going to make sure that lights are on. All those different kinds of things are in place so that groups coming in to use that space can walk in and use it. So you're not necessarily saying, well, this is what it costs to prep the field, this is what it costs to line the field, this is what it costs to have lights. All of those things are built into the fee, so you're paying one fee. We're a strong proponent that fees should be evaluated on an annual basis and based on the market and the cost of doing business. Cost of doing business is important because that relates to what are your consumables cost, but in this day and age, more importantly, what is your staffing cost? We have a number of clients that have gone through the pandemic and into 23 and 24 and not made any changes in their fee structure, while at the same point they've been seeing 5, 10, 15% increases in hourly rates. So what your what your field rental or facility rental once covered no longer does. Big proponent of fees should be adjusted every other year. And because the majority of these fees are being absorbed by user groups, understanding when their registration is and making sure that I'm going to pick on a group. If the lacrosse season starts in September, they need to know what fees are in that September, probably in January or February of the same year. So that way they can go ahead and build any increases into their registration. So being proactive with that is important. And again, it goes ahead and it's good faith amongst organizations that allows people to adjust appropriately. And again, we're not suggesting the city is going to balance their budget on this particular measure, but there is a direct correlation for what people pay or don't pay for facilities and the level of care that they give to those facilities. The last thing, as it relates to programming, and this is more city specific. City does not need to be in the business of programming fields at this time, right? Based on staffing levels, based on the user groups that we talked with, they're covering all of the bases. So to that end, the city really embracing the role as a facility provider / manager. We always describe program delivery as one of three options. You can run the program, you can work as a contractor, you can work with contractors to run programs, or you can be the renter of space. The renter of space in many cases doesn't necessarily have the same return on investment that if you're running the programs or working as a contractor, but there's a significant number of challenges that do not come with being the renter of space. So for the time being, we would strongly recommend that the city goes ahead and continues to be the renter of space. The city needs to continue to work with those existing youth sports groups, right? Going ahead and meeting with them on an annual basis. When you're in season, even meeting with them on an even more frequent basis, needs to be open lines of communication. And on some level, even having the city staff visible at some of those events is an important thing, whether it's a practice or a tournament or those kinds of things, so that they can see what's going on, they can address questions and issues if those arise. You need to continue to review and refine your reservation policy to go ahead and make sure it's as clear and concise as possible. Just the reality is that process needs to be transparent so everybody understands that everyone is making sacrifices to go ahead and make their season work. And then the last thing that we talked about, and this is a consideration, of maybe implementing an advisory board regarding fields. So you have a representative from each one of the field use groups who sits down with Kyle and additional staff on an annual basis and talk about, this is what we're going ahead and doing, here's how the reservation program is looking, here's what we're doing as it relates to fees, but then creating that feedback loop. So if there's challenges with rectangles or challenges with diamonds, they feel comfortable going ahead and calling Kyle and making some of those items known. But on top of that, creating that feedback loop so that groups understand the city's level of commitment and how they're addressing the variety of issues that they're presented with is important, right? Just when you think about it, 23 parks, 251 acres, here's what the budget is. Those are significant numbers that folks need to understand, because while we focused on fields and field use and pool use and ice rink, the Parks and Rec department for the city does a lot beyond just athletic fields. So they're being pulled in different directions. So understanding what that full demand for services and resources is becomes important to go ahead and communicate. That
Thanks.
was what I had prepared for the group. I'm going to stop sharing my screen unless there's a particular slide someone would like me to go back to.
No, thanks, Darren.
Any questions, concerns, something that you thought might be included that maybe isn't included or I didn't touch on but might be included in the report? I'm here to answer any questions.
Sure. Thanks, Darren. Commission members, any questions, comments? You can't see us, Darren, but right now they're,
Yeah, we're,
I don't
Thank
know
you.
if you can hear the commission, but they're just kind of internally talking. They said, thank you for the presentation so far. So I don't know if you're able to hear them or not.
can you hear us?
It was pretty muffled, Kyle, so
Okay.
if they have questions, I'll need you to repeat them.
I didn't have a question necessarily, but I had a comment because you have a lot of concern about the fields and the usage and the who's doing the what. And I always like to have the students, the kids, the babies, the big people that are using these things come into play. And I did hear one part of your presentation where you said we can't let the fees get so high. And that's concern that I sometimes have, that people think these bigger organizations have a lot of money and they, I think all these facilities bring in an awful lot of traffic and an awful lot of good feeling for our community. And so I just like to have that communication, which I think you mentioned is good, between Kyle and the schools, the city. The schools have to work together. They're talking about the same kids. And so from that part, I had so much in there. I guess I didn't get it all. But the part I really wanted to say was communication is important, and considering what those fields bring into our city is important. I know our staff is understaffed, we just tell them to work harder. That doesn't always work. You know, we have to make sure that our staff we have enough staff to take care of what I'm thinking is necessary, you know, to have more care and more communication. So that's all I have to say, and I think
Okay.
you pretty much said it's going on, so that's good.
So I think the action tonight is to recommend this be included as part of the Parks Master Plan. That's the motion that we need, right, Kyle?
If you guys have no questions, I can let Darren go too, and then we can
Yeah,
do it.
certainly, if you can't hear us, thank him for the work. This is excellent report that I know we'll be able to use going forward. You know, if you hit on it, Karen, but for fellow commission members, you know, I made a note, page 10, we are understaffed, we've known that. And then page 11, not to get into programming, which I would suggest that goes beyond just these three areas. Even just our discussion tonight, being understaffed. Every time somebody comes in here, they don't come in with bad ideas, it's a good idea, but it's gonna be death by 1,000 cuts. Just adding a little bit of work, taking docks in and out, doing this and that. And I think that term renter of space is gonna resonate, that's where we need to stay right now until things change at the funding level.
So are you saying we shouldn't add this to our,
No, I say my N, we should.
yeah, I think we
Absolutely,
should too, and I think it
absolutely.
was a very, very good.
Yeah, yeah, if somebody wants to make a motion,
I'll make a motion.
okay,
that we
Karen, make a
include that.
motion to add this to the master plan. Recommend adding it, right? Okay,
Correct.
I'll
and
second.
Aaron will second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Say, Darren, thank you. It was communicated that you were appreciated for your presentation, and you did a great job, so our commission's thankful, and then they did recommend putting this study into our Parks Master Plan.
Thank you guys very much for the opportunity. It was great to work with Kyle and the rest of the staff with DPW. I really think you guys are doing some wonderful things for the community, and it was a pleasure to be there. And if you need anything in the future, I'm sure Kyle and I will have some back and forth to go ahead and refine the document. But we appreciate the opportunity, and thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you for your job.
all right.
Bye-bye.
All righty. Being I messed up the agenda, I think we're on to the parkland dedication fee study. Is that correct, Kyle? I certainly want to thank staff and consultant that have stuck around for these items tonight. So we're finally on to some easy items here. We're on number 11, parkland dedication fee study.
Kind of puts a spotlight on me, doesn't it?
You look good in it.
And I believe you have something in your packet that should mirror this. I'm not sure how everything got pulled in, but it's also in an appendix of the system plan, so. So it's labeled staff report, and really, if you remember back in October last year, one of the elected items that got added in for the scope was to really evaluate the fee structure. When we're looking at parkland dedication, see what it looks like, see how it reflects the need based on the system plan and the existing facilities and the proposed improvements that were identified through the system planning process. And so the staff report, I'm going to show you a couple different, the information to you a couple different ways, but it walks through between now and 2040, kind of that duration of this plan, what the expected growth of population would be, therefore the expanded need, what the where we're at with acres of parkland per 1,000 people. And I will note that the figures in this might be slightly different from the Ballard King report, because when we're looking at things in the system plan, we were really noticing like Bixby is a really large acre park, but the usable space within that park is much smaller than the overall footprint. So we're looking at the parkland usable space that you'd be able to see and projecting that out as part of the metrics. So, you know, so looking at where we're at now, looking at the discussion that occurred a little bit earlier this year with the commission and really aiming to increase that to that 12.9 per thousand. You know, currently sitting at 198.37, so that discrepancy between that 251 that you just heard about and the 198, that's really the amount of area that might be in water or wetland or really kind of undevelopable space within the park system. Looking at the total number of trails and then what the park system plan really has allocated to develop over the next 10 years, giving an idea of the costs per acre for parks, and we have a couple different ways. You know, we've extrapolated out some costs, projections, and the system plan, but for the purposes of this, we're looking at what's that parkland gap, and then applying an average cost to that based on industry standard. Same thing with trails. And then basically coming back through to figure out through the capital improvement plan, the gaps in the system and costs that are identified in the report and through metrics for both parks and for trails, as well as park planning. There are a number of parks that really don't have park plans. So we want to do improvements, but knowing that we need to identify what those improvements are to make sure that they're going to fit what the community needs, what the system needs. So all told through, we go through that math and we get a need, a numerical need, over the next 10 years of basically a little bit over 42 million, which is different, higher, about twice as high as what is allocated in the CIP. And I will go through that math. In fact, this will be a great time to do that. You're not going to be able to see everything on here. It is, it's going to be small on the screen, and I'll zoom into some pieces, but in the staff report, there should have followed a couple of slides that basically is this table. And I'm going to zoom in and kind of just walk you through what we did. And this will be available to staff as I'm going to say as a worksheet, part of an annual review. As soon as I get back up to the top. So CIP is toward the top, and we did it by year. And years that we didn't have information for, we used an average based on what information has been programmed in, and then extrapolated that out. So this is pretty much exactly the information that is in your capital improvement plan. And then staff provided this, and then when you get out to 2037 and on, you'll notice that it is the average number to kind of round that out. That establishes a number of 24,780,000, so just under 25 million. Okay, so that's our basis. Then we start getting into things like gap costs. So, you know, we mentioned the existing trails, we mentioned the plan really over the next 10 years looking at adding an additional 17.1. And I'm going to say level of sidewalk or trail connections within the community. Some of those might be, you know, trails that are connecting parklands, also connecting different destinations of the community to each other or to other parks, or allowing neighborhoods and people to be able to more easily get to the amenities. So using our cost factor per linear foot, calculating the additional cost just for trail gaps of just under 8 million, which when we add that to the just under 25 takes us to roughly 33. Same scenario when we're looking at what park land gap costs. So, you know, that's when we're looking at the total number of acres we need for the projected 24 population of 335. versus what we currently have, which is just under 200, that 198.37. You know, what's the cost of land if we would need to purchase land and if we look at, you know, a dollar figure on that per square foot, or basically the 43,560 per acre, that extrapolates out to just under 6. Add that back to the cost and you're up to 38 million. The park planning is what we talked about in terms of developing park plans or having an idea of what we need to actually be putting in for these different parks. And that really gives staff the cue and the community and an idea and part of that conversation on figuring out what do we want to do, what do we need. That is pulled directly from the park system plan. And that's just under $1 million with a 10-year period. And so that takes us up to 39.5. I will shift the page number 2 and 3 and 4. Following that, that's also fairly small. What it actually shows is the recommendations, the low range costs, the high range costs, and then it's split out based on the categorization for the park system plan. And some of these items are oranged out because they wouldn't be eligible for parkland dedication fee expenditure. So we use the actual plan information to extrapolate back into the worksheet as a calculation of that park planning need. So that's where that number came from, and that's why those extra sheets are in there. And then the last piece is looking at the park improvement gap costs. And so this is the one where we use industry standard 21,000 per acre, the existing land that we need and the difference between those two, and coming out to just under 3 million. So adding that back in, that's where we get to that 42,400,000 roughly. Then if you go through the calculations, we use the 24 projected population, the average household size at that time, to get a fee per resident. Calculate that back times the average household to get the residential unit fee, which would be like fee per unit. You're probably used to seeing fee per unit when you're looking at the ordinance or discussion with developer, or fee per residential unit. That would basically equate to that number if you're looking at cash in lieu of land dedication. But we also know that you're not just building houses or not just residential development, you're also looking at commercial, industrial, institutional related. And the standard is typically that you're calculating that because the workers and or their family are also going to be using the parks, or the business is going to benefit from the parks, just not necessarily to the same degree. So typically that is assumed that it's at least 50%. So typically it'd be half, right? So for this we use some tables that have been available for developing land for Forest Lake, calculated things out based on the 2020 to 2040. So we're calculating the time base that we're in. There's two different pieces in there. One of them is the 786 and the 879. Together they're that 1665. That's the projected opportunity for the commercial industrial developable land.
Can I just jump in for a second?
Yeah.
It's obvious that there's a lot of math here and you've done
There's a lot
your
of
work
math.
here. I think we should get to the heart of the issue here,
Okay,
what we're dealing,
perfect.
why are we here, what are we dealing with?
Perfect. So know that worksheet basically goes through and is the exact same thing that we went over in this projection. The staff report. What we're getting to is where are we at with current cash in lieu and should it be adjusted? And what we come to, if I can get this to work, there we go, is that it's a little bit lower now, and we look, basically, the motion that we're recommending is increasing it, or adopting a standard of $3,929.09. I know it's probably a little bit weird to show the cents, but follows exactly from that worksheet. And based on, legal, like different court cases, it ties it exactly with the need. So for residential unit, that $3,929.09. For commercial, industrial, per acre is $8,966.81.
Okay.
And then using that for the new parkland dedication formula for cash in lieu. So that's one motion. The second motion, it would be direction to staff in terms of when that would be applied and how that, they would use that in
Okay.
conversations with developments.
Okay.
So that second motion is to recommend that city council apply the new residential unit and commercial industrial fee structure to any preliminary plat application applied for after the date of approval of this fee adjustment.
Okay. Couple questions. The current residential number is 2,500 per acre,
Correct.
and I understand that that really, we don't have any basis how that was arrived at. There's just been a number that's been used.
No, when I first started, I believe it was either 1,500 or 1,800, and at one point it was increased, but I think that was arbitrarily increased
Yeah.
because it was more or less, they knew it was low, right? But I think there's a lot of math there that
Yeah.
he was doing, but that math is super important because it does explain why you need to get to that number. And that spreadsheet's super important because every year, staff, Public Works, Kyle, Parks Commission, we adopt a new CIP. If numbers change, if Abby lets us know land values change, if the market standard of acre development, we just change those numbers, and that new number becomes what we would recommend for that park dedication. Every year that the $1.7 million, that's just a placeholder, actually gets filled in with $1, that will change it, so. Abby will tell, she'll probably make a comment here too, but it's so helpful to justify why you're charging this
Right.
versus.
Right.
Here's just a number that we just picked out of the sky.
Do we have a current commercial industrial charge?
We do, yes.
What's that?
I think, I'll have to double check, I think it's 6,000 per acre. You give me just a second, I actually started to look just through history of ordinances. I can tell that at least since 2013, this was $2,500, so we haven't even reevaluated it in 12 years. Give me a second, though, I can find our fee schedule.
I will say it's also, it's in the system plan portion, but it's not in the staff report. And that is the city did check with some peer communities to get some comparable information on what they're charging and how that relates.
Our current commercial industrial is 7,000 per acre.
Okay.
Just one other comment to add in is this is only new construction, new parks, new trails. So as you know, in our CIP, when we're doing these playgrounds, this cost isn't even in that. So this is for all the planned new fun things, new parks, new trails, all that. The maintenance side is general levy dollars that's meant for maintenance. So this is, they are divided out that way.
Is it fair to say that what this calculation shows what the need is, right?
Yes, so state law only allows us to require land dedication at the time of subdivision of new land. And the fees have to be held in its own separate fund for new system improvements. So that's why we took the assessment of how much additional land would we need by 2040, the land we're developing for new homes. What would be the improvements on those lands, and what is that value? And then we just really tried hard to make that very much based on the reasonable growth patterns that we're expected to have between now and 2040.
Just, go ahead, Karen.
And you deducted then the wetland areas and areas that weren't usable to get down to the number?
So all that we're looking at is developable, the future parkland to be dedicated. So the current ordinance requires that 10% of a neighborhood or a piece of land be dedicated for parkland purposes.
So maybe to
So-
answer your question, if the city were to take cash in lieu of parkland dedication in a development, and there was going to be 100 homes put in, then it would be 100 of those residential units that would be charged for the cash.
But wouldn't, if we were gonna take land instead of that, we wouldn't have to deduct?
Then you
the-
wouldn't take the money, so that's why you need land and, what? Oh,
So if you had 100 acres, you'd require 10 acres of usable dedicated land, not wetland. We're not taking low swampland. We've had a whole history of doing that, and so we want to make sure that it's usable land. Yep.
Okay. And
So-
also,
so-
I remember when we raised that, we were low then, I think we're low now. We just don't want to jump so high that we know where these fees go. They don't go on the developer, they go on the homeowner that's buying the house. And so we were always at that time considering that too. But it
We have
seems
to-
like,
yeah. Keep in mind, you have to look at everything across the board. For the last 12 years, how much has inflation gone up? How much is the cost of building, right? Even
Oh,
going
I-
back 9 years ago from when our development started, it's increased over $200,000. You cannot build a house under a specific amount. I mean, the average home price right now is $450,000. The average first-time home buyer is 40. You know, so we have to
Oh,
look
that
at
is
that
land.
and put that into consideration of, yes, it's gonna be steep for that developer or the buyer, but unfortunately, it's what's happening.
and I think in your capacity as the Parks and Rec Commission, be fair to say that that is not your
We
your
can't
worry
have a
or
heart.
your concern.
we
I mean,
can't have a
that,
heart.
but that is something for the city council to decide, right? Because this
Yeah.
would go to the city council. I think your group as a Parks Commission is saying, yes, we want all these things to happen. We want these trails to be built, or trails to be built, these playgrounds to be built, all this stuff to bid, and this is what it's gonna cost to do that. We're recommending that you charge this fee. Now, the city council may have those same discussions about developer costs and cost of houses, and they may choose to do a different number, right? But I think in your capacity, you don't want to go down that road of trying to think about that. You're strictly thinking about the park system itself, what that's going to cost to develop going forward.
Makes
Yeah,
it
it's a-
solvent, right?
Yeah.
Well, and
Dave-
I'm all for always asking what we want things to be done, so I can't really argue that we shouldn't raise the price in order to facilitate all the ideas we come up with that we want to be covered. So, I mean, I'm not against this. I think it's been well planned out. There's way too much math, but the bottom line to me makes sense.
But we needed that math. You know, a lot of
You
cities
needed
are
that.
getting sued on the reasonable proportionality, and we have very clear evidence now of how much it would cost us, how much it's gonna cost per person or per household.
Yeah.
You do a good
Dave, where I was headed with clarifying that this is a need is, the motion is saying, you know, we recommend this number. When I was looking at this would it also be adequate to say to the council, to meet the needs, this would be the number? And they can make the political decision if it can, be, you know, if it's less than that or more than that. There's a lot of other ways that they could raise money to meet our needs, right? But if they're gonna just use dedication fees to meet the needs, this is what the number would be.
And possibly, Chair, if you don't mind if I interject.
No,
I
absolutely.
think one thing that might be appropriate too for the commission is to say that you support the system, the analysis, that this represents the needs, that you would recommend the council adopt the analysis as a tool that we use, and that you believe that this would be the cost, but you would ultimately defer to the council. I think we would really appreciate having the commission's support of the framework so that we can kind of keep revisiting the same thing each year. So I did look through, it was between 2014 and 2015, that fee schedule changed, so I was wrong there, but, you know, we don't want to go another 10 years. This is why you have a
Yeah.
jump from 2,500 to 39.
You had heads nodding up and down on that, Abby. You had heads going up and down on that, what sounded like the start of a motion. I'm wondering if you wanted to craft something that we could vote on here before we adjourn to that effect, or we just verbalize that. I think we all support the analysis that was done and that as a basis for this.
Do you want me to?
Aaron's got something.
I was just gonna ask, so this basically is making Parks and Rec solvent, the way I'm understanding it. This is the requirement for Parks and Rec to be able to do what they're wanting to do by 2040 with this plan.
In future. So it doesn't necessarily address the catch-up.
Right.
You know, the things, the backlog of maintenance that might not, or the playground replacements, this won't fund that. This will fund the new Hidden Creek Park.
Right.
This will fund the new, you know,
Right.
all of the newly developing areas. You'll be able to create the parkland system that essentially those residents are expecting.
But then we'll also put into play where we're gonna review this more often than once
Yeah.
every 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So it'll be, you know, touched more often than,
So if the commission was favorable, I think an appropriate motion would be the motion to recommend the city council adopt the parkland dedication study, fee in lieu, or fee assessment study as a tool for future cash in lieu analysis, and make recommendation regarding per unit and per acreage contributions. And then you could probably fill in those numbers if you want.
Man, the math is
I
math.
should have typed it out as I was talking.
Well, the numbers, we would fill the numbers in with what's here, right?
If this commission is comfortable, yes.
And I think it's important to add that we accept the report and that this will fulfill the need. Just adding those couple words to your motion here kind of does it.
So
Somebody
a
wanna make that-
motion to recommend the city council adopt the parkland dedication fee in lieu assessment as a tool to be used each year, and a standard of 392909 residential unit and 896691 per acre, non-residential acre for parkland dedication formulas. That makes sense? Some
Nick, you make that
commissioners will
motion?
just say so moved. If they liked the words.
yeah, I can I just?
Sure, just.
Nikki moves that.
So moved.
Motion to recommend city council adopt a standard and the tool that's been proposed for a standard fee of 392909 per residential unit and 896681 for commercial industrial acreage as new parkland dedication formula for cash in lieu. Also, a motion to recommend city council.
I think we'll get through the first motion first.
So that's the first motion. Karen?
I'll second.
Aaron seconds.
No,
Aaron seconds, yep, Aaron seconds. Aaron, Karen, Aaron. No K on that one, just an Aaron.
did you want anything
more
other than that in the motion?
We'll do that, we'll do the transition thing next then.
Okay, because she had that in the first motion, but it's okay.
Okay, we okay? Any,
Yep.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No one. All right, then we need a motion on the transition date, Abby?
Yes, please.
Does it make sense to the preliminary plat is that what you would recommend as staff?
You could, I don't know that it necessarily needs a motion, but I definitely think that you could at least direct, staff to share with the council that you would want it to apply. Anybody that's in the planning process now, it's kind of unfair, but if we've got new plats after the adoption of the ordinance, or applications, they should probably follow the new fee schedule.
Okay, and that's a defined stage, the preliminary plat application. Somebody can't say, hey, I talked to Abby and blah, blah, blah.
No.
Okay.
And if you don't care, staff's gonna keep bringing this forward too. So I think if you are in support of it, I don't know that we need a motion. I think if you're in support of
Yeah,
staff
okay.
working with the council on establishing
Sure.
that date, then
Seems to be more of an
carry that over
okay.
for you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're here to help.
We want to see it before you write it over, though.
No, I just mean, we'll carry that, the commission is in support of not maybe applying a new fee to current preliminary plats.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm seeing, a lot of heads here in support of
Yeah.
anybody new after
New.
the date.
Just the
Perfect.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just one suggestion for you is even think about say the council approves this in October. Just even put a hard date.
We do. So if the council will approve it on a Monday, they'll send it over for publication, and that Friday is the date that it's approved. And so our, for staff, we'll communicate that with any future developers for sure.
Okay.
But we do have some active preliminary plats, and I kind of think it might be a jerk move if I went to them tomorrow and said, oh, by the way, that might increase $1,500, so. We just don't want to do that.
Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right. I think we only got about 400 pages left.
Correct, that's the fast stuff that we got out of the way now.
So the good news is that you've seen a lot of the structure when we've been and we've provided information.
Yeah, just for the public too, we're gonna now move on to the Forest Lake Park System Master Plan.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, Josh, you can certainly plug in some things that you think are important, but I think the premise here is just to really let the commission know that this is, documents that you've seen. We've had the committee working, throughout the last several months with Josh to, provide this document. And kind of the premise of this document, right, is to really gear staff, direct staff to, here's the things we got to get done over the next 10 years. It's just a really high-level overview of what the system is calling for, balance with national averages, and that's something that's important to staff, I think, and to just our system right now is trying to really follow the standard, not trying to deviate too far from what's expected or what we should be doing. And yeah, if you have anything you want to plug in, go ahead.
Yeah, so I figured I'd go through things super quick as an overview. That was an excellent tee up. And then hit on kind of recommendations and implementation strategies a little bit. Really open it up for any questions that you have. So I think that model might work because it's not necessarily new, and with the Ballard King presentation earlier, a lot of the discussion that they had in their findings in that study were synonymous with the system plan. So in terms of using this, the system report, there's an introduction, there's a section on existing conditions and needs. That's really where we identify the different parks, including some parkland spaces like Grundhofer in the southeast that, I'll be honest, I didn't even know about in 2014. I don't know how long they've been on the books. So this truly captures more of the system-wide parcels. Even if they're just land that hasn't had any improvements done to them. Vision and guiding principles, this pretty much exactly the same as the 2014 plan. There was one that was added in 2022 that I'll touch on briefly. Trends I'll touch on very quickly, and then the recommendations and implementation strategy. I already did that piece. Everybody here knows, but just for anybody that happens to be listening in, really started off in November of last year and have worked through pretty much through May, some odds and ends, making some tweaks between May as the Ballard King study wrapped up until this evening. So if you weren't familiar with Grundhofer's 14, kind of down in the southeast corner. Really no improvements in that. It's just kind of a natural space, and the same for Cranberry Heights, number 10, which is a park space that's pretty much accessible through, I suppose you could walk in, but otherwise it's mostly mostly surrounded by water and/or residential units. One thing I'll hit on quickly is the comp plan actually calls out for classifications: premier parks, community parks, neighborhood parks, open space parks, special use parks, other parks. And I've listed on the right side which of the existing parks fit in each of those categories, the general purpose and function of that. One recommendation of the system plan is actually to get that better aligned with National Recreation and Park Association standards. And so I will show a similar table in the recommendations piece that looks at alignment. And then I won't go through all of these, but basically going through each of the different parks and identifying where they have ball fields or where they have flex fields and some of those different spaces and amenities. There is a page on agency benchmarks in this section. It really talks about what the where Forest Lake is relative to industry standard for the size of community. The areas that tend to be outlined in red are where the community is currently deficient. Areas in green are where it's actually a little bit above the game. You know, Darren mentioned that there's a number of parks. So there are more residents per park, than average. You have more access to that. Trails, kind of the same thing, but most other categories, it's just the community just below. It needs to play catch up, which is similar to the 2014 plan, and then also a lot of the survey results that have happened since. I think I saw a number of you at the open house, but when we compare it with the responses this year, as well as then 2022, which, really kind of building off and wrapping up that report, about 750 total responses. The median response age was 31 to 45, but, had representation from the different age groups. 10 most used amenities, listed like walking trail, wanting additional things, connections to parks, added dark park facility, and really added natural scenic areas or trails. Kind of what people do in terms of first to fifth, in terms of current use, how they'd rank the system, what they'd like to see. And, some of if we rated comments, we have a page that really listed the number of additional comments and what they related to. And that was anything from facilities that are existing to facilities that aren't currently in the community. So guiding principles, if I get to the one that I want. Provide accessible opportunities in parks, trails, and open space for all residents of Forest Lake. Develop parks, trails, and open space with consideration to preservation of and education about natural habitats. Develop an effective planning approach, identifying improvements and maintaining parks, trails, and open spaces. So those were synonymous with the 2014 plan. The newer one from the 2022 effort was support establishment of a network of public parks and trails to provide outdoor recreation amenities and community-wide connections to serve the health and welfare of residents. Trends, hit on a number of different things, dynamic demographics. So as the population or the composition of a community's population changes, whether that be the ethnicities that are comprising it or ages as people, age in place. Just looking at what the trend is there nationally, but also within Minnesota. Work-life balance and really understanding that some of the earlier career staff are looking for different opportunities in terms of interfacing with work than people from 1950, 1990, early 2000s. And what that means in terms of flexible use of space and how the parks fit into that equation. How tech can be leveraged to help both understand who's using parks, when they're using parks, but also like QR codes or educational experiences, navigation and wayfinding, taking advantage of some of those opportunities. Accessibility, inclusivity, shouldn't be a newer one, but really thinking about that in terms of parks. Non-traditional recreation isn't necessarily looking at programming per se, but looking at flexible uses of facilities and what that means in terms of parks. Pickleball or court sports, dog parks, just based on people who own dogs or pets and having spaces for them to use. And then partnerships. Really looking at leaning into partnerships, and you have that, especially if you have that funding gap or with programming related things, you know, whether that's institutions or individuals who can help to extend that beyond staff or maybe even beyond what a community would be doing. Changes in climate, it's really just looking at both accessibility of things, but how you manage what you're looking at in terms of your system and what it means in terms of population interface. Then we get to recommendations, and they are in 5 categories: parks, awareness and programming, natural resources, sustainability, connectivity, accessibility, operations and management. And then from there, it's split out into an initiative and to then a recommendation. 1 to 3 years would be more of a, this is an immediate need. That 4 to 7 is kind of an intermediary need, and then that 8 to 10 is towards the end of this plan, but still identifying as would be a benefit to the system. I'm not going to go through all of these. I will hit on this classification for parks quickly. And it's really looking at mini park, which tend to be your smaller parks, neighborhood parks, which are, you know, between that 3 and 20 acres, and just in terms of how they're situated throughout the system. Community parks really are those larger parks, you know, those where everybody's going to for different things, whether it's a specific playground or community event or to socialize. Special use park really dedicated to certain functions, and natural resource area, open space, kind of align with the, you know, what that entails.
Excuse me, would Fenway be in special use parks?
It could be in either. This plan does a couple of things. We're looking at what the aspirational use is based on size, but also based on Fenway has some additional land that hasn't really been, you know, programmed or populated with amenities yet. So it really could be more of a community park, could also be a special use park. But we added a provision since we're changing or suggesting to change some of the alignment of these for city staff to continue to review and really determine what the best fit is in terms of management and calculation or categorization.
So special use would be like Castlewood, right? Just a golf course. Fenway's got multiple things, community park.
So this map is going to be important, kind of where the parks are at, and really like, I'll say missing links, or where there might be residents that really aren't close to an amenity. So really looking at these new service areas. So when developments come up and you're looking at maybe considering land or cash in lieu, this could help with that discussion in terms of, does it add value and benefit to our system? Is cash probably going to be better if we already have land in that space? Some of the things I had with awareness is really just, you know, tying in with branding tying with boosting public awareness of parks, based especially on a number of people who participated in the survey have lived in the community for quite some time, but as you have new developments, new residents, do they know the parks that are available, what they can do in those different parks? So that's really kind of teeing into that and leveraging that. Natural resources is really the systems themselves, how you want to manage that, and then what direction you want to give staff in terms of management or looking at wetland areas, water quality, development, and maybe even new designs. Within the connectivity piece, we have kind of future trail build out. It really aligns with some planning that was done in the last comp plan, but then also looking at needed connections, boosting some connections that are a little bit weak or non-existent currently, and expanding over time to fit the larger community. And operations and management is really understanding the need for city staff to, do they have the resources, do they have the direction as necessary for them to be able to maintain the improvements, both with the existing park system, but any improvements that are made within it. Implementation follows this pretty much piece per piece, right? Those 5 in that order. Same thing, we have high priority that are 1 to 3, medium priority that 4 to 7, and then lower priority that are further out. Some of these, like Lakeside, you know, all of the parks we identify, if they don't have a plan, that they need to develop a plan. Lakeside, I know, has actually had some planning done on it, so included a link to that, and then making sure that there's awareness that work has already been done. Don't recreate the wheel, you know, lean into that and see how it fits from an implementation as well as a future planning effort. A couple of these are shown with multiple priority levels, and the indication of that is it's either something that occurs within each of those categories, or for the instance of 1.3A2, we classify following parks as mini parks, prepare master plans, 2 per high level, and medium level, 3 per low. So it gives you an idea how to calculate out that cost within the duration. So total with low priority, so that's that, that's that 8 to 10 years out. It'd be 10.8 to 13.4 million if we're looking at pieces calculated in that. Medium priority, so that 4 to 7 is basically 19 to 23. High priority, which is the near term, especially realizing there's not a lot of lead up time for that, is the lowest, but looking at about 240 to 420,000. You have the total there, which would be all 3 of them. And then we added a anticipated park improvements worksheet, just to get an idea of what some of the construction related costs might be. We don't have some park plans for some of these. We have some tables in here that are like linear costs or cost per foot for like trails, boardwalks, park related amenities. This was taking a best guess on likely improvement costs for parks, where they would fit within the different priority categorization, and at least having something to serve as a basis. So this would be an alternate way of looking at the fee study. We showed that 21,000 per acre for parkland, right? This would be an alternate way of looking at building it from the individual parks up.
But what would the veterans, why were we involved in the veterans monument at all?
That would be basically based on the plan that was put together for that, the additional improvements, or like relocating the dock, shoreline stabilization, some of those items. So
Okay.
this pulls some of that information over, so it's showing up in this report, and they're not individual
Okay.
reports. And then we had funding resources. I just breezed through a lot.
Did a great
Everything else
report.
is appendices, so like the last 800 pages, all appendices. They're very important, but they're supporting what we're showing in here. So I think the two things typically are to generally agree with the direction of the system plan. One of them is understanding that it's showing, you know, a need, showing what it is advocating on behalf of, the need for additional parkland, right? Showing that over time there needs to be an investment both in additional funding for staffing and/or park improvements and trail improvements. And then the general categorization in terms of the park categories, which then would influence the upcoming comprehensive plan, because they would roll this into that. And what else am I missing here? Those are probably the biggest items. It's basically, those items will all give a nod to council if you so choose to send this to council. In terms of level of investment or discussion that they should be considering for, you know, for adoption. Did you have a motion on this item?
Yeah, we do have a motion needed for it, but yeah, I think again, big thing is just understand the work that we're doing here, right? With parks, we're trying to follow this plan, so when we have things come to this commission that are discussing development or whether to do this or take cash or build a park, just remember this full document, right? That's what we're working off of, and that's the biggest thing with this, is it provides us that clear direction on what we should be doing and what our overall goal is. And the recreation is just simply to recommend that city council approve the Forest Lake Parks Master Plan as a city long-range planning document to guide future parks, recreation trails, and open space planning and investment.
I'm
Karen?
fine with that. I so move that because I think it's a great piece of information for all of us to keep. So we're not surprised at what's coming up and what we can do. So
Okay.
I think the report is well done.
Okay,
You moved, so moved.
Karen made a
I'm so
motion.
moved, yeah.
I'll second.
Second. Any more discussion?
I don't think so. Just a quick question. So this is kind of random, but I was walking around North Shore Circle, and where these ones are showing 0.36 acres and 0.1 acres, are those specific parks and parcels of land that are required to be on the lake? Or is that something that we could do away with?
So you're just basically asking if it's deeded parkland or if it's just city-owned property?
Need to be? Yeah, exactly. Are these things that need to be, or is it just what once was, still is?
I mean, we could do a full review, but I would almost be 100% positive every one of these are dedicated parkland that you don't sell, I mean, there's outlots around the lake or city-owned properties, but I'm not here to say that we pull title on every one of them, but I mean, even the North Shore Circle, we're park dedication per that development. So I mean,
Okay, got it, for the development. Okay, so
Yep.
it was there when they built those initially, part of the plan when those homes got built?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and some of those.
Okay, so, go ahead, Josh.
I was gonna say, like the earlier discussion, in terms of, parkland that would be developable. Some of these they were meeting the park dedication fee, structure at that time. The developer didn't necessarily want them or couldn't use them, they were left over, so it came over to the city. So that's just something to think about for future developments. City staff are doing a good job, I think, in helping to steer that.
back to
So we
what
get-
Karen kind of brought up earlier is, the staff aren't gonna accept swampland or wetlands, we're gonna take high, dry land that we can use, otherwise we will take the cash in lieu, we have a lot of property out in the old township area that is just unusable,
Yeah, thank you. I just didn't know, so just
Yep.
furthering my knowledge.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, so we got a motion and a second. These efforts take a lot of time from people, and we had some community members, and if the motion maker and second's okay with that, I'd like to offer an amendment that we also recommend the city council send a thank you letter to the steering committee members for their
Always
time
a
on
good
this.
idea.
Like that, yes.
I'll take that as
Okay.
friendly amendment.
All right. So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Josh, thank you for your time
Good job.
and on that.
Josh,
So. There's a lot of great information here that's going to be useful for
Oh, that's for sure.
many times.
Just don't read it at
If,
night.
if,
Best time.
We'll get our own copy and
You say, so just don't read
if we weren't understaffed before, we are now. Okay. I think we have to go back to Birchwood, right? Does anybody need to just go take a break if you need one? Okay, all right.
I don't know if you need this up, so.
Getting the computer turned on and,
oh, look at that.
oh boy.
Wow. How is this rated? Kind of scary.
The second screen. Do you? You'll get it. Okay. Says to do it before
I just go to my desktop.
And put it on the list.
It's called the Fenway.
Figured my computer battery would have died or something.
Yeah.
We have to zip down right to this. The commissioner proposed consider the staff's preliminary recommendation. I mean, that won't take very long.
Can't access this project.
Which one?
Right here, Parks Commission proposed should consider staff's preliminary.
Let's get to the
Review does
fun
not
on
approve
alcohol.
or deny the project, so it's just a matter of accepting.
Best time to ask the question is when you're at the end of a long day. Absolutely approved.
Phone calls to make when I get home. Oh, my God.
These other three owe us.
oh, yeah. Get us.
Do you want to do the alcohol sales, Kyle, real quick while this is getting fired up? I think that's,
It might take us a quick second, so go ahead, yeah, if you've got.
that seems like a very straightforward one. That's item 13, Fenway alcohol
I
sales.
thought this was probably gonna take us the longest of all the reports, actually, so.
Come on. Actually,
Are you serving some before we vote?
At 8:30 at night, I think everybody's like,
we're gonna have Michael try to plug in up front, so it could just take not even a second.
Nope.
Oh, no.
I like that person. It just seemed to me that all our job is that we could consider the staff's preliminary recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the access to the packet, I think
We do.
Michael could probably just give a quick few lines about what the development is. There isn't a developer here, but I think we're looking for your,
We're not
Preliminary
saying yea or
feedback
nay
on
to
it.
the project, we're just agreeing with the staff's recommendation.
are you comfortable with that, Chair?
yeah, I'm fine with that.
I can keep fiddling either way.
Well, first of all, the memo on this is excellent with the map and the detail, and we do appreciate the recommendation too, having the expertise, and it makes sense. I think, I personally too like the idea that you're looking beyond the borders of this property, and how can, as these other properties come into development, we combine them all and have a bigger park. Because I know we've struggled with just little parks here and there. And this is, I think, very visionary, that looking towards the future. And so,
And the people can know what they're gonna be having. It's not a last minute You're gonna have it one year and they're not
Correct.
gonna have it the next year.
Correct. So, well, not to presume, but I saw some heads nodding. Would somebody want to make a motion on the staff recommendation? Suggested motion that's on page 4 of the agenda item?
I've got it in front of me. I hate to make them all, but
It's actually further down, Karen.
what? The one I just said? I was gonna put that one.
Yeah, keep going.
Maybe I don't like all this you're making me go past.
We'll read it quick, Karen, don't.
I like mine.
Oh, this is the same, right there. This is advisory feedback on the plat that staff would use to work with the developer.
Correct.
Yep.
We got
Is this one
concept-
of the developments, Abby, that's already been started, or would this go to the fee schedule that we just kind of motioned going to the city?
So this is in the concept plan stage, so they have not submitted their preliminary plat yet, so it would be subject to the new fees. I think we've already discussed that with them.
Okay.
So long as their preliminary plat was not submitted before the adoption of an ordinance, the council elected to change the fees.
Okay.
Right.
But then in this case, we are asking for land, so then some of that might not, the fees may not come in. And just the one point to add here to Don's point is this is the third of the 4 corners. If you remember Amberley Woods, then Willowmere that we just talked about, maybe he called it Sheelander at that point.
Yeah.
That was the one directly to the west. Now this is the one to the south, so we're trying to piece all 4 of those corners together. So basically, that recommendation is taking that northeastern section of this, or asking for that northeastern section of that land to connect into what we already have for Amberley Woods, what we're asking for Sheelander, and then what we will prepare to ask for in that next development. So this is the third section of the 4.
Okay.
I think that's just the one big thing to hit on is
So you-
our overall goal of getting that big park in
so
that one
then
area
these
is, this
come
is
in.
one of those sections.
Okay, perfect.
It's a much longer one to read. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to provide advisory feedback that future preliminary plat / PUD plans for Birchwood Estate should incorporate portions of Lot 35 and all of lots 36 to 38 into the proposed park dedication, include sufficient usable parkland to more closely meet the city's park dedication requirements, support the city's long-term planning goals, and utilize cash in lieu to the area of park dedication that is not being met.
All right, motion made.
The long one.
I don't know.
It's, all I have to know, it's gonna combine it and it's gonna make it less serious afterwards to try and put a park here and a park there and promise one here and promise one there. And then not keep our promise. And so, to me, what this did, if I'm correct, is just put it all together and then we can make a plan for all of it.
10%.
3 of the 4 parcels.
Correct.
At the time of the 4th parcel, we would seek land dedication as well. Sorry. I should be letting-
Correct.
Correct.
And this does follow the Parks Master Plan that we just went over, that you need a larger community park in this area. And that's what you're trying to do with acreage to get to that size with multiple amenities in one park.
Aaron?
So for the cash in lieu of the area of park dedication, so I'm assuming they're not gonna meet the acreage requirement?
Yeah,
They're
in
gonna
their,
take cash in lieu of what the
correct, in
remaining
their
balance
concept
is?
plan, they're providing, I think, they're about 2 acres under what they'd be required. We're requesting that they show as much as possible, but I think with the plan, with the space that they have, I think it'll be challenging to meet the full 10%.
Right.
So then fee in lieu for the rest of it.
There you go.
Okay.
So you've
We got a motion
on
and-
that? She already said the motion.
Yep, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second? Any more discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes.
Now the fun stuff.
Thanks, Abby and Michael.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Kyle, last item, 13.
Yeah, so just a brief overview. It's something that annually happens with the FLA event. It's just the police fire versus FLA coaches. and then the potential for an adult softball tournament. They're both seeking approval for alcohol. Part of the ordinance is that this commission does provide the recommendation. Also part of that ordinance is the chief of police does approve this, in which the chief of police has stated the support of this, both events to have alcohol sales upon the commission's recommendation as well. So just following the ordinance, this is the process currently that we get your guys' recommendation. So, the two events are both going to be managed by the Legion. It's all the Legion staff. They manage all the alcohol, all the state permits, the local permits, staff on hand to make sure that they're appropriately identifying those that are 21 plus, and pretty straightforward, but again, just having to come before you guys to get your recommendation on approving this.
Any questions, concerns, comments?
Definitely a go.
And
Is
it's
that-
not necessarily, I don't believe it's a motion. It's just to get the support and recommendation that, and then that goes
Okay.
towards the chief of police's approval.
Okay. I think you've got consensus on that, Kyle. Okay.
The answer is
How
yes.
easy that was?
Drink on.
Recognizing the time, do we have any staff updates?
Got a few pages for you. No, just wanted to give a update. Arts in the Park obviously is, kind of fully in swing. That's going pretty well. We've had a rain day and some heat, obviously, that definitely slows some things down, but Arts in the Park is going well overall. We do have the corn feed coming up next month, so certainly we'll look at the commissioners for a hard commitment from everybody here following this meeting. And then we do have some additional volunteers too that we'd like to get in. So, we look at wanting about 8 people would be ideal. There is a lot of behind the scenes stuff that does go on. So certainly the commission's participation is important. Yes, Karen, it does take a lot of hands to do stuff. It's behind you when you're dipping the butter.
Let's make sure they're behind us then.
So,
Wheel and deal those babies.
yeah, right. So, and
Commissioners
then.
should want to be there.
Correct, yeah, it's a great time to get out in front of the public as the commission. So, park rentals, we have a lot of summer rentals going on, with the Lakeside Park being kind of the main focus. Certainly probably in line with where we were at last year. I'll provide a overall report as the summer wraps up, just kind of comparatively how many people are renting park amenities, so you guys kind of see what that the popularity is. Fields are going very well. Thanks, big thanks for Public Works. The staff is, again, they build it into their already very busy day, and have been doing a great job. Get a lot of compliments out there, so things are going very well with that. Obviously, being the first year, really not a whole lot of hiccups on scheduling. It's been pretty good. So we're just hoping that we finish strong. Spring summer starting to kind of wrap up. So we'll start to see a little die down in scheduling, and then we'll kick back in with fall sports such as like soccer and stuff. And that's, I think, a bulk of my report, my updates.
Dave?
Just 3 things as far as parks maintenance side. Manor Park, the majority of the equipment was installed right before the 4th of July, and the fish is going to be installed either tomorrow or Friday. The mulch is in, the container's in, so that will be completed, and I'm assuming Kyle will coordinate some type of a grand opening or something on that, but that will be off our books here pretty soon. Volleyball court, if you have driven by Belts today, Public Works started on the volleyball court. It might be as done as soon as Friday. It might trickle into next week, but it's pretty much excavated out. Posts will go in there and finished off.
Can I throw something in there?
Yep.
So, my daughter likes to go up to Belts, and I went up and took a picture. And just so you know, there are not 2 ball fields. I have a picture of it. There's one that's closest to St. Peter's. There's nothing on the left-hand side. There's no field, there's no fencing, there's no nothing.
Yep, that was eliminated like
Long time
5
ago.
years ago.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it
Okay,
was.
well, I thought we had talked that there was 2 ball diamonds.
No, just
Then
one.
why couldn't we do the 2 volleyball courts? Why did we
Well,
just do the one?
That I don't know, but we did.
Because the
just
consensus, well, you started with one, and if the demand went up, you could do two, and it was, maybe we just want to put another sand volleyball court somewhere else in the system versus having just two of them right there.
Okay.
We did center it to that you could add the second one, so it's available that we just expand in the future if we want. I think that was just left at, well, future discussion on that.
Just to add to that, was it Doug Deaver? I mean, is this more of a permanent sector? Because I thought we were talking about another not permanent spot in case it was moved, but it looks like it's all dug out and deep, but is that just because?
Yep, so there's a border being installed on 12 inches of sand, and then the posts will be in footings as well. The ones before were just wooden poles, so these are actual volleyball stands with nets, so it's all, we'll have the actually boundary line too, that'll be in the sand, so, I mean, it's gonna be a regulation sand volleyball court.
And yet if something happens, we want to make another one or we want to move it, it's not that big of a deal?
It's expandable, so the border can just pins can be pulled and you can just extend it.
Okay.
We think all this through, Karen, before we put it in.
Well, you haven't asked for opinion, so I thought I'd give you one.
And the last update, just because we won't meet until middle of August, Bayview Park will begin on August 3rd. So we'll work with Parks Programming to put up that, construction coming soon with the QR code to let people know. But August 3rd, the playground equipment is scheduled to be torn down that day. And then if everything goes well, the way we have contractors lined up, it should be completed middle of October.
That's great.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Nikki, anything, commissioners, updates?
No, thank you. Everything looks great. Manor Park's coming. People are super excited about that. So yeah, they're getting close. And thank you guys all for your hard work.
Aaron?
I'm good.
I just wanted to add that Kyle and I have been in touch with someone for the Ninja project, and it's something that won't be this year, but it's something that, again, we can be looking at as a program. They've come in with a big truck, and they set up all sorts of ninja equipment or climb. It's all for getting kids exercised, but it's a little spendy. And so I just bring it up because I think it's interesting for them to see the project. So down the line, who knows how far, but it's just a very interesting project. It's been he goes to a lot of parks, so it's a 4-hour deal. Whoops, excuse me. Anyway, we can send the information to the commissioners, could we not?
Yeah, I can certainly share the link that you had sent over.
For the back of your mind.
Okay. Dave, just want to make sure Public Works guys know and gals, the thanks for the work they're doing out there. That those benches, for instance, at the Fenway pickleball courts are fantastic, well-received, and Fenway's looking great, so the crews are working hard, and people notice it. Sometimes they don't think their work is noticed, but people notice it, and so,
Appreciate it. I will
thank you.
pass that along to the staff.
Yeah, absolutely, thank you. All right, with that,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn? Karen and Nikki seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.